Thanks for coming on Fargo Talks, soon to be Downrange, whatever Kris and I decide this thing's going to be. Right, Kris?
Downrange podcast.
Downrange podcast.
You came up with the the downrange part. I came up with a podcast. You're welcome.
You put those two things together, you have a goddamn good idea.
Exactly.
How did we even get you, Rob, to come on is the question. Because you're world famous, martial artist, ball buster, outer of all those fakey fakes that are out there trying to move people with their hand and do the Bruce Lee heart punch or what was it David Carradine did in Kill Bill Volume 2?
Oh, yeah.
Boom, 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 and
the
then
5-point palm death technique.
Yes.
I put
Nailed
in
it.
probably I would say over 100 calls to get Rob here. I sent a proposal over, a lot of free gifts.
Y'all are just full of shit. First of all, I appreciate the really nice. I saw the podcast. I'm a big supporter of Range 702, big supporter of Kris. I saw BJ Baldwin on there. The podcast was fantastic, and I just reached out and I was like, I'd really like to be on the podcast.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, it's a very cool idea, and the fact that you guys had BJ on was pretty cool because I watched that one all the way through, so it was very well done.
He is somebody that is, and I said before we started, I've met some like bad people in a good way, like people here that are SWAT, people here that are military. He's the most lethal person I've ever talked to in my life because he backs it up with idiosyncratic detail. He can draw and get a bead on somebody in 0.14 seconds. The most challenging thing he ever shot was a moth.
And a guy. He shot a person.
And he shot a person.
Yeah, he did. I mean, that probably was
also
harder.
Shot a person that it's like, but the way he talks about it, it's like Hannibal Lecter killing Miggs. His heart rate never went above 87 as he's telling the story.
He was eating a sandwich. Yeah, it was Tuesday. Yeah, shot a guy in the face. What else did I do? I think I did my taxes. No big deal.
Well, everything that BJ does is so scientific all the time.
When he talks about cars.
Yeah.
He talks about every little detail about the aerodynamics, the bumper, and blah, blah, blah.
He leaves no stone unturned. He's just so descriptive. I get that way, but not like that. It was like, but when he talks about ballistics, we have a couple of clips that we put out from it. Kris was like, this is more romantic than flowers.
The ballistic talk?
Well, it was romantic because I asked him why. Like, why are you doing all of this? What's the reason? And he said, he gave a very long scientific answer. But the end was he's doing it so that whoever he's with that he loves has to be in that stress for the least amount of time. And that's what was so romantic to me. I was like, oh.
Well, he wants to evoke the response from the receiver of him. It's either him or an A-10 warthog. Like that is the amount of harm and discontent he wants to put upon that person or people.
And quickly. He doesn't
and as fast as possible.
Yeah. He said during that incident, Tori was stressed out for too long. He looked back at that and he's like, she was stressed out for too long. It needs to be faster next time.
Yeah.
That is way more romantic than roses.
I mean, when the first time I heard him tell me that story was in his house. And I walk into his house. And we were talking about this before we started, but there's just ballistic gels everywhere. They're like on the kitchen counter. They're on the wall. I'm like, what are you doing? He was like, yeah, I'm just testing to see what these different rounds do inside the ballistic gel. And I was like, why the hell would you do that? Because you're in your kitchen, man. And he tells me that story. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. You had to kill a dude. I get it. Now it's on your mind.
He has volumes of evidence about whatever he talks about. He can quantify everything. You don't bullshit with BJ Baldwin. You bullshit with Jeff and Kris. All day long we'll bullshit with you. And Kris has more shit to back up than I do. I'm a walking pile of bullshit. I'm from New York, for Christ's sake. Jesus.
But I'm bullshitting here.
Forget about it. I got a guy. That's my love language. So you got a guy. But it's amazing to me. And so are you a detail guy like that?
I don't think I'm as detailed. I'm a fly by the seat of my pants kind of guy. I'm not like I don't think I analyze stuff like that until after it's done. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I could have done things way better than I did. But like, I'm not somebody who's that detail oriented going into anything. I just dive in and just
So is it like
happens.
Controlled chaos and then you come out of it and go, okay, What did I learn? What can I do better? What was awesome I can double down on?
Well,
next time.
Well, because I think my job is weird. Like as an investigative journalist, like I find out about a story, like, and I only see the overview. Like I have one that I'm working on right now of a fist fight that broke out at a jiu-jitsu tournament. And that's all I have. That's the only piece of information that I have is this brawl happens, right? Between like, I don't know, it was like 25, 30 people, right? Happened this last Saturday. And so I get that piece of information. I go, that happened. And then I dive towards it, and then I find out why it happened.
That's cool.
What led up to that, and all the little details that happen. And then I take that information and just make sure I get it to the public as well as I can. So in that respect, I try to be very detailed. But in how I go about it, I just do the best I can. I'm like, oh, you talk to that guy? Well, let's talk to you. And they give me information. I just keep going down that path until I find some really batshit crazy things that happen in a very specific niche market.
When did it start to like grab hold that this was a thing for you? With the investigative journalism, you're like, I like it. It's cool. It gets me out of bed in the morning and I'm doing something good. Like I'm outing people.
I liked it immediately. Like it was weird because I had like this experience. I've been doing martial arts since I was 12 years old, and I had been doing it for a very long time. And at the time I was a striking coach and I was helping do help with jiu-jitsu. So I was behind the counter and my boss called me and he's like, hey man, I'm sick. I'm not going to be able to teach this class. Will you teach the class for me? And I was like, sure, I'll teach class, whatever. So I go in, I teach the class, and then it was a noon class. So most people during noon, they go to work. So everybody left. But before everyone left, we were talking about something called McDojos. And a McDojo is a fraudulent martial arts studio. And so we got on that subject, and that term's been around since before I was even born. And then there was a guy there, and it was his first official martial arts class ever. So everyone left, and then he stayed behind as I was about to lock up. He goes, hey man, I'm a little embarrassed. I don't know what that means. Could you explain it to me? And I was like, sure. So I gave him my best definition that I had at the time of what a McDojo was. And he just goes, how come no one does anything about that? I go, I don't know. I just don't know. So I was like, you know what, let's find out. So I start doing research and I start finding out that the martial arts industry has 0 regulatory bodies whatsoever. You need absolutely nothing to start a martial arts studio. You don't even need to know martial arts. No background checks are required. No first aid certifications, no safe sport certifications, nothing. But it's a breeding ground for cults because there's so many rules and regulations that the individuals input on their students. So by the time you walk in, you have to bow to this person, call this person a certain title. These are the rules of how we handle the mat. All that crap is already there for the making of a cult with no regulatory body. So the amount of people who are already sex offenders, people who have extreme criminal histories and backgrounds, really evil, vile people, they go to teach martial arts full time because they have no other options. And so I don't think that people realize that, specifically because of pop culture and how you look at pop culture. You get all the virtues on TV, the honor, the pride, the respect, the discipline, and all that crap, but that's made up. Like that dude was just smoking crack in the alley, and now he's teaching you martial arts because he's just better at beating you up, which is a very low bar in the grand scheme of life, you know. So because of that, I have stories all the time.
I had no idea that was so unregulated.
Yeah, nothing.
That's
need
crazy.
Nothing. Yeah.
That's horrible. The firearms industry is a lot like that too. Obviously, to get state certified to do a certain kind of, obviously there's something there. But I mean, same thing. Anybody can just say, I'm a firearms instructor, and then just kind of like start instructing. It's a undefined term, instructor.
Yeah.
You
just kind of just say you are, and then you are.
Yeah.
It's just such a strange thing, though.
Who was the first big person you got, or school that you got that needed to get got?
I'm trying to think, man. There's been a lot over the years. I think that the one that maybe I just take the most pride in getting, I was very actually recent. So like, I wouldn't say maybe the first one, because like when it first happened, it was like a weird trickle because I didn't do it the same way I do it now. So when I first started, Instagram wasn't even a thing yet. And so, because I've been doing this now 12, 13 years. And then when Instagram first started, it was just photos, if anyone remembers that.
Yep.
Like you couldn't even, and
Barely.
then eventually they were like, yeah, we'll give you a 5-second clip that you could post. But like, so I couldn't use Instagram the same way I do now. And Facebook or YouTube, I kept getting hit with copyright strikes every time I try. So I was like, damn it, how do I get this information out? And the only way I could was Facebook, and it was long form essays. So I would write these like 10, 15 paragraph essays about these specific martial arts studios. But at the time, I don't know, I had like a couple hundred people who followed me. So yeah, those people cared, and they would share it around, but it didn't catch traction. But then eventually it does. And then it catches bigger names' attentions, and they start pushing the page and other things. But I just got done with a lawsuit, and that one felt really good because I just won. And this guy, his name is, oh yeah, by the way, I can say your name now, suck a dick. But anyway, this guy, his name is Brian Antak, and he runs a thing called Brian Antak's Kempo Karate in Bakersfield, California. And so he hires a guy named Gary Snap Ferguson. Gary Snap Ferguson is a registered sex offender. He hires him and allows him to teach at his martial arts studio, and then he persists to lie that he didn't know this guy was a sex offender. But I have plenty of text messages that state he absolutely did. But in any case, I put a story out there because Gary is a certain type of creep. He had multiple restraining orders against him from previous relationships. He had multiple charges of sex offending against minors. He winds up taking a plea deal. I think he does like 8, maybe 9 years in prison. And then he gets out. Well, as soon as he gets out, this guy, Brian Antak, hires him to teach at his martial arts studio. Well, again, there's no regulatory body. So he just basically lies, says he doesn't know, even though this guy was training with him, disappears for 9 years and comes back, and he's on the sex offender registry. His name pops up on Google. The first 3 pages is nothing but all the evil things that he's done. It wasn't hard to find out. So I do a story about that, and I tell the public that this guy at that time was still around kids at that facility. And as a matter of fact, the girlfriend that he groomed, and she was a minor. Now the girl he still has was a minor when they first got together. And he'd be posting stuff like him and her, like he would be shirtless and she'd be in his room like, what's going on? This is a minor. So in any case, I do the story because that's an important story to tell the public. He winds up doing a counter story saying that I was lying. I'm like, but I provided receipts. I showed absolutely everything with what I said. So I did another video countering his, showing how I had even more evidence in my pocket, and everything that he said, I can back that was BS. So rather than him going back and forth, which would have been great for me, because I would have just been hammering this dude, he decides to sue me. And I get cease and desist all the time. Like that just kind of comes with the territory, right?
And for people that don't know, when you become a content creator, if you don't get a cease and desist, you're not doing it right.
Yeah, you haven't really made it until you get your first cease and desist.
Right, that kind of comes with the territory, I think, right?
Yeah, so I call them keepers, you know? Like, as a matter of fact, the first cease and desist I ever got, I filmed this. It's on my YouTube channel. Like, I did a story about a guy who had harassed several women. He stalked and harassed them. And he sent me a cease and desist for doing a story about it. But I showed the police report. Like it said, stalking and harassing. Yes, you did do these things.
Public knowledge.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And so like he sent me a cease and desist, but he had already agreed to allow me to do the story. And I was like, what, could you send me I asked him to send me a write-up, like his public statement.
Okay.
And his public statement was a 4-page blackmail list of like, if these women spoke out, what he would do. He's like, I'm going to release all of these negative videos about them. I'm like, this is just blackmail.
He wrote that down?
He did. And his lawyer approved it.
Wait, his lawyer?
His lawyer was like, yeah, that's good. Send that out.
Oh.
So I do the story, and like right as I'm filming, a process server knocks on my door. And I was like, oh, this is going to be great for filming because I already have their permission to do the story.
Oh my gosh. Please tell me you filmed that.
Oh, I did.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. I wiped my ass with it on camera. So like on that story, it's me.
You do not disappoint.
Oh, yeah. On that video, I was like, oh, this is great. Thanks. So I wipe my ass with it. I throw it away. I set it on fire, and then I piss the fire out. Like, no, you can't intimidate me. Like
the only response, really.
I think so. I think that was fair.
Yeah.
I think maybe I could have stepped it up, but I'm working on that. You know.
Well, you've got to come out of your shell, Rob. That's the thing.
I got to loosen up, really.
I think that you're very hard on yourself because you overthink things inside internally. I think that's the problem with you. Now, we've just met. You're a wonderful person.
You know,
I see us becoming good friends, but I just think you just overanalyze things too much. You get on yourself too much. You just got to let it fly.
Yeah, you just got to really get in there.
Stop holding back.
Yeah,
That's Stop holding back, my friend.
But yeah, but so to that point, the dude in that original story I was talking to you about, he ends up sending me a cease and desist letter, and in the cease and desist letter, it stated that I had to admit to defamation, and it was like, and the way that it was worded, if I would have signed it, I would have admitted to defamation of character, and it was like, I will cease and desist the defamation of blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, I never did that, so I don't need to sign this. So that's all there is to it. But attached was like a thick, like, paperwork of all the different things that he was trying to sue me for. And I was like, well, see you in court, brother. And then, of course, I actually got sued. So 2 years of my life, I'm having to defend myself before we ever even get to court. It's dragging and dragging and dragging. I think by the time it was done, it maybe cost me $100K, right? And so, but the hard part was I won. 2 out of 3 causes of action were completely dismissed before we ever even get to the court part. Because the judge was like, yeah, this is ridiculous. Like the defamation got tossed out. And then he tried to say I was a competing business, trying to steal his business. I'm like, you're on the West Coast. I'm on the East Coast. You teach martial arts for a living. I'm a reporter. How am I stealing your business?
Yeah, exactly
I don't know. And then the last cause of action was a invasion of privacy, which I never did because everything I showed was public.
Right.
And so I was like, well, I'll see you in court. And I guess he thought that I was just going to like sign the cease and desist because it'd be easier. I was like, oh, no, I like the hard way. Yeah. I was like,
he did not research you properly.
Oh, no.
Yeah, at all.
I was like, we can go to court all day. I cannot wait. I got plenty of suits. I was like, we'll be there all day. And then he finally dismissed, like, because he ran out of money. So at the last like year, he was self-representing.
Oh.
But he was, so the problem was he was too stupid to know that since he was self-representing and he wanted to quit the case,
right,
he had to say that. And so he never told anybody like, hey, I think I'm done here. So it just kept dragging and dragging and dragging. And I'm like, all right, well, I can't wait to go to court. And then finally he was like, how do I not go to court? He was like,
he asked you?
He asked my lawyer. Yeah, because I'm not dumb. I'm going to let the lawyer do lawyer things. They
right, yeah.
Good for you.
But yeah, it was wild.
Something more, and this is something that this episode won't drop for a little while, but we're going to clip your answer to this immediately and get it put out.
Okay.
Who's going to win in a fight, Liver King or Joe Rogan?
Rogan all day.
Why?
Is that even a question?
What? Let me finish, please, Kris.
Why?
And why?
Well, I think I could sit here and break it down in the most analytical way possible, but I can just make it simple. Joe Rogan is a black belt under Eddie Bravo and 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu. Joe Rogan's been doing martial arts forever. Joe Rogan, when he is notorious for whenever people are in class and stuff like that, enroll with him. Like he literally does it. He's not pretending to train. He really trains. Taekwondo black belt. He's been around martial arts forever. He's a super fan of it. He has a dojo, I do believe, in his studio. He probably has a dojo inside his house, if I had to guess. Like the dude is legit as legit can be. And Liver King is a guy who scammed a bunch of fucking people, lied to them, likes testicles for some reason, and then he works out. So like that's cool, but you're gonna get eaten alive. And
him and Kris have something in common, actually.
It's also really hard to win a fight when you're in jail. It's hard to win that fight when you're in jail. Rogan's outside, he's on the inside. You don't win.
If you see Rogan hit the heavy bag with that spinning back kick,
beautiful thing.
Or when he's doing like just the front kicks where it's snapping, the guy's holding the bag, and how it's just the snap. And I'm like, when he talks about things, because he's hyper-focused, Rogan, that's why his podcast is the best in the world. He gets dark when he talks about martial arts sometimes. He goes to a dark place just because of in terms of defending himself or what he would do to somebody else. And when the Liver King thing came out, I'm like, you don't have a shot, dude. You don't have literally, you don't have a prayer. If you're going to meet in an alley with him,
it's just an
you'd be done.
insane thing to do. It's an insane thing to just hold guns and then threaten someone's life and then go to that place like everything's going to be hunky-dory. Like we're not living in fantasy land. We're living in reality land. You can't just go around threatening people and then expect no repercussions.
Don't you feel like he's just like unwell, like something snapped? Like, I don't think he was ever super well to begin with, but something got worse. Like, he's not doing well. And even if he was some great fighter, like, he's just mentally not there right now. There's no, like, he wouldn't be able to fight in a great way, even if he had that in him, you know?
It was the testicles. I don't
I don't
Kris,
too many
thoughts?
testicles.
Too many testicles.
Thoughts on
Well,
that,
I don't
Kris?
actually digest the testicles.
Word on the street has it that, okay, fine, whatever. Moving on. No, I was just curious because it's something I can't even believe it's getting the traction it's getting for the news cycle right now.
Well, did you watch all of the things? Rob, I'm sure you did. Yeah.
Well, between yesterday and today,
it's a lot. It's
a
lot to digest.
It was
sure.
like, I think the 2 videos that I saw, one was him holding the firearms
Right.
and then talking about wanting to fight Rogan, and the other was him crawling around like a gorilla.
I saw the crawling around video.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's
what I'm saying. Like, even
I
if he
think-
was a talented fighter, he's not in the headspace to even be able to do that right now.
It's weird because I watched the documentary, I think like a week ago, if you got the chance to see the Liver King documentary.
I'll have to put it on my list.
And
No, I'm happily married.
He kind of admits to like kind of being a piece of shit. And in the documentary, he talks about scamming people, like running a scam while he was working at a GNC. And he like kind of wholly admits to scamming people with his like, I don't take steroids crap. But that's pulling the wool over people's eyes. And obviously he made a lot of money off of like, this is the right way to live. And none of us fucking know. No one knows the right way to live. Like, you just live. And if it makes you happy, be that thing.
Well, if carnivore diet, God bless. I mean, if that's what you want to do, okay. But I think that the abuse of steroids over a long period of time, I think that's what Kris was alluding to, that he's not in the right frame of mind.
Right.
Like, he's not rationally thinking his way.
I think you also see this just with a lot of people who are like in the limelight, and they're looked at in a specific way, and they're looked at as great. And then all of a sudden the plane crashes in terms of their popularity. And then it's like they don't know how to handle it because they're still just as famous as they were. But now when people are walking up to them, they're not necessarily walking up to them in the same way. Like, hey, let's get a selfie. It's like, hey, you lied to me. And now imagine like that happening over and over and over and over and over again. That's going to do something to your psyche.
Well, and this happened in Austin, right?
His arrest, yeah.
Right?
He went to Austin to
Rogan
hunt him down.
Which is probably why he was arrested.
Right.
Rogan is a god in Austin. What he has done for the economy there, with the Mothership comedy place he's done, with everything, with bringing comedy now at the epicenter globally of comedy is Austin, Texas. Like, everyone's left LA because of Rogan. So the guy walks on water for like the tax base there. The resurgence, it used to be South by Southwest, what it was known for.
Yeah.
Now it's like comedy and a bunch of other things. And so for this guy to come in in Rogan's backyard and to be slinging that kind of nastiness is like, dude.
So Rogan changed my life. Completely flipped it on its head and never met me. Like, I met him finally 2 years ago at ADCC Jiu-Jitsu tournament, shook his hand, and that was it. But he has done so many things for me without ever meeting me, changed my life completely. I've compiled these, and I call them Rogan stories. And I have a ton of Rogan stories for things he did to me that led to a wild fucking story. First, if it wasn't for him, he originally started sharing a lot of my posts on Instagram, and that's how it started catching traction. And then out of nowhere, he starts talking about it on a show. And I was teaching martial arts at the time, and we were getting ready for a summer camp. So we had rented out the space next to us, and I start painting it.
Okay.
So I'm over there, and I'm painting all day, just kind of getting it nice, so that way it's looking good, ready for summer camp. And my phone started vibrating in my pocket, but I got paint all over me. So I just reached down, and I shut it off in my pocket, just shut it completely off. So then I finish painting, and I go back over to the studio. I start washing my hands so that way I can start teaching jiu-jitsu that day. And when I go over, I had a parent walk up and say, "Hey, man, congratulations." I was like, "For what?" He's like, "Dude, Rogan talked about you for like 15 minutes on a show. It was great." I was like, "Really?" I was like, "Okay."
I had no idea.
And then so I turned my phone on, and it had been off for like, I don't know, several hours on my pocket. And if you have like an iPhone, the messages stack.
Yeah.
Well, when you get enough messages, they scroll. And so I turned my phone on, and it just goes zzz. I was like, what the hell is that? So like I look, and like all out of nowhere, it was like, I don't know. I think by the time that day was over, I had an extra 50,000 followers like that. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I
that is a
imagine.
thing.
Good for you.
And then he did it again. Then he did it again. And then he did it again. I'm like, oh my God,
Wow.
dude. And then my birthday, right? I'm going to Atlanta. I had to be in Atlanta anyway. And I look, and I'm like, oh, he's going to be in Atlanta. And so I was like, well, he's messaged me and I've messaged him. No like formal long conversations, but he's always been very polite. And, so I reached out and was like, hey, I tried to buy tickets, which I did, for his comedy show. I'm going to be in Atlanta. Would you, are you going to open the auditorium more? Because sometimes they'll do that, right? They'll limit it and then like spin. I'm like, are you going to expand? He's like, no, it's actually sold out. He goes, don't worry about it. I got you 2 tickets. I was like, really?
Joe Rogan gave you tickets?
I was like, that's all. So I wind up going. I was like the front row of his show. I'd never seen his comedy live. It was fantastic. His openers were great. And I was like so thankful. So the next day I get up and I'm about to leave Atlanta. So I sent him a message. Thank you so much. That was such a good time. He goes, are you going to be at the UFC? And the UFC, I'll get to that. So he was like, are you going to be at the UFC tonight? And I was like, I don't have tickets. I was like, I appreciate that. And he's like, I got you 2 tickets. I was like, get the fuck out of here. I was like, I've never met this man in my life. And he's being so kind for no reason other than being kind. He wanted nothing in return. It was just here. And I was like, dude, that's amazing. So I happen to have a buddy in Atlanta that day. I'm like, yo, let's go to this fight. So we wind up sitting there and we're in like 3rd row from the cage. Which like you have like front row, which is like usually like friends, family kind of thing.
Yeah.
Then you have like 2nd row, which is like what's usually considered murderers.
It's like Trump
row.
and then like Trump security.
Rob,
Then I'm back there like, hey, I'm just happy to be here again. And then like, and I'm sitting next to Killer Mike. And if Killer Mike, the rapper, like I'm like, oh my God. And
I didn't know you were so cool.
I'm not. That's the coolest part. And so like I'm hanging out and I'm like, I got to see 2 of those fights that night were up for fight of the year.
Okay.
The last 2 fights. And one of them made it the fight of the year, which was Israel Adesanya versus Kevin Gastelum. The one where Izzy is in the cage going, I'm willing to die.
Yeah.
Like, it was incredible.
You were there for that? That's awesome.
It was amazing. And so I'm like, that is incredible. Like, that was for my birthday, just to be kind.
Is there pictures of you, by the way? Like, do they show like the fight and then like there's you?
There's
like,
a
3rd row
blur.
back?
I have on my other phone, I have a picture because Dana White walked right past and I was so like amped. Like I was shaking the camera, like, yeah. And then so there's like me for some reason in complete focus and a blurry photo of Dana White like right next to me. But like that was cool. I'm thinking
awesome.
that's all I need. I'm good. Cool. That was very cool.
It's very cool.
Fast forward. Let's start working on a documentary, which we're still working on, about frauds and cults in the martial arts industry. I'm like, oh man, like I'm going to drive cross country and I'll make a bunch of content on the way. And one of the stops was Austin, Texas. And I did not know, but Rogan was in the middle of or had just moved to Austin, Texas. He didn't even have Comedy Mothership or anything yet.
Okay.
So like I wind up going and I'm supposed to meet a UFC fighter by the name of Justin Wren. And Justin Wren is super famous because he was a heavyweight who decided to give up fighting and he went overseas to help some kids in the middle of some rainforest get well water. Like he just gave up his whole life to be this great human being. He's like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be the best human on the planet.
Awesome.
But he has a anti-bully thing and I am very big into that.
That's great.
So I was like, let's do some content. Well, driving into Austin takes forever to get to Austin. Takes forever. So I wind up being like 4 hours late and we're supposed to have a lunch and then work together. And then I'm like, well, I need a hotel. Can't find a hotel. Don't know why. Like everything's booked. So I call him, hey man, I'm not going to be able to make it. Let's film. I want to. He's like, well, I'm sorry. We're late. Not going to be able to do it. But Rogan's in town. Why don't you hit him up and catch a show? And I was like, oh, shit. Okay. I'll hit him up. I'll catch a show. So I sent him like Hail Mary pass just to see if he'd even answer. And he did. He's like, I got a ticket for you. So I was like, and this is like right when like COVID's kind of like up and down tapering. So I wind up going and I sit at this table. And as I'm sitting at the table, I'm looking around. All the tables are full except for mine. I'm sitting by myself, just eating barbecue. Like, this is weird. Like hanging out, eating this delicious barbecue at a place called Stubbs Barbecue. And it's in their back in this open area. And then a couple sits down. We start hanging out with the couple. Couple's like buying shots. I'm getting along with them. We're having a great time. Then show starts. The dude who played Ashy Larry from the Chappelle Show.
Oh yeah,
he's like the MC, so he's crushing. A whole bunch of comedians come up, and Ron White hits the stage. And Ron White, I guess, hadn't done comedy in a little while at that point. So he hits the stage and he gets 2 standing ovations, like just crushes, right? And he's on the mic on the stage, and he's almost in tears, moved by how the audience reacted to him. But when he walks up on the stage, the couple that was sitting next to me, the guy goes, hey, that's my dad. I go, get the fuck out of here.
What?
You're the little tater. Like, that's the big
That's
deal. Like, that's
awesome.
awesome. And so, like, Ron White finishes a set and he comes and sits down with us. Well, by that time, an older couple had sat with us as well. And then I realized, I was like, this is a table of people. This isn't just a table. Like, and so I look over and it turns out that the guy sitting next to me, the older couple, is Paul Mitchell, like Paul Mitchell hair care products.
And the
I was like,
tequila. Yeah.
And I'm Patron.
Yeah,
and I'm
Patron.
sitting here like,
Yeah.
oh my God. But
Yeah.
Ron White, he sits with his back to us, so he doesn't really see me. But he's like, let me get a shots for everybody. We start drinking his tequila, number one, I think is his tequila. And so we start hanging out. Then, they make you put your phone in like a sleeve. So I
Faraday
can't,
bag.
I'm like, why?
Yeah, Faraday
Why?
bag. Yeah,
And
it's
then
brilliant.
like Dave Chappelle hits the stage and Dave Chappelle does a set. I'm like, what is going on right now? And then when he starts his set, he's like, hey, everybody, by the way, Elon Musk is here. Elon Musk just stands up in the audience. There's like maybe 200 people here at most. And I'm like, this is insane. This is the coolest moment
That's
ever.
awesome.
So then everything finishes. Rogan, Chappelle come out. They do some crowd work or whatever. Everybody goes to leave. And I'm like, man, that was just incredible. And the younger couple, Ron White's son, he goes, hey, what are you doing after this? And I was like, absolutely nothing. And he goes, why don't you come hang out with us at the condo? I was like, damn right. So I'm getting a little tipsy. So I set my alarm because I was like, I barely know where my hotel is because I was only there for like 2 seconds. And like, I was like, I'm getting a little tipsy. I walk into the hotel or their condo. It is beautiful, beautiful. And it doesn't hit me because I'm tipsy, but it's like, hey man, you want something to drink? I was like, yeah. So he pours me like a bunch of tequila. And then he goes, do you smoke weed? I go, I absolutely smoke weed. So he brings out a garbage bag size bag of nugget weed.
Hell yeah.
And he brings out a bong that had the alien spaceship from The Simpsons with the alien in it. I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to do a little bit of weed. I'm going to drink my drink. I'll be polite and then I'll leave. So I'm like, I'll do a little weed. So I go to rip the bong. And as I do, a billow of smoke comes out of my mouth. I'm like, oh my God, it hits so smooth. That's not good. I am not going to be functional in like probably 30 minutes. So I check my phone. I'm like, okay, my alarm is still good. And I sit there and now I am in a monologue in my own head because I'm just wrecked. And him and his girlfriend or wife are talking, but I'm sitting in the middle and they keep coming to me for like acknowledgement.
Okay.
They're like, blah, 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 blah. And then they look at me like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I was like, yeah. And then I look over and the other one would be like, right? I was like, yeah.
Was
But
it just
you
you
did
and
not
those two?
Just us, right?
That's awesome.
Then out of nowhere, here comes the tater. He walks in the door. Ron White walks in the door. I was like, oh my God. And I'm sitting here like, all right, be cool. You're the man. And then it hits me. This isn't their condo. This is his condo. And I just start looking at gold record, platinum record, gold record, signed guitar, all over the place. I'm like, this is his place.
Wow.
And then he's talking to them about how his niece was trying to get into like NASA and get like some kind of like promotion. So he went to the after party to get Elon Musk to give like a recommendation. And apparently he was really cool. But I'm watching this shit like it's Discovery Channel.
And you're
I'm
high
like,
as giraffe nuts.
oh yeah, super high. And I'm watching this like, they're just like us. They're real people. And then out of nowhere, he looks at me and he goes, oh, he walked and his back was turned to me earlier. So he probably didn't see me before. And he sits down and leans, he goes, hi, Ron White. And I'm so high, I go, no shit. And I shake his hand. And he just sits there and he just starts rolling a fucking blunt. Like, I'm like, this is amazing. I'm about to smoke weed with Ron White on his couch. And so he rolls it and he's just shooting the shit with me. And he was like, I saw no you have scars on your face. I was like, yeah, I have a cleft palate, and talked to him about that and like what I do and all that good stuff. So he gets a FaceTime with, I guess, who he is like significant other.
Okay.
And he's like, yeah, this is my son. This is Rob. He's got a cleft palate, like how fucking Ron White talks. And then I was like, that's dope. And then he just gets up and he's like, hey man, if you need to stay here for the night, you're more than welcome to chill on my couch. And then he leaves. And I'm like, that is where I'm going to leave. So that whole night happens because of Rogan. I'm driving through Austin, Texas to go to my next spot the next day. And I call my best friend. I'm like, dude, you got to hear what just happened. It's insane that this just happened. And as I'm driving, he goes, man, I can't wait to see a photo. And I was like, oh my God. I didn't take a goddamn picture because that night they make you put it in the sleeve. So I just forgot. You forget so quick you don't have your damn phone, except for
so we'll never really know if this night ever even happened.
It happened. It was so dope.
Did this really happen? That's the question.
It happened, and it was glorious.
This isn't a fever dream. This really did.
You know what? Sometimes the best nights are the nights without your phone, though. So,
it was.
Yeah.
It was very, very cool. But that was all because of Rogan. Like he just
Well, the mothership is famous for the Faraday bags that everybody, you put your phone in that so you're in the moment and not, so, and also like for the talent on stage, they're not looking at a sea of phones, which has to be the absolute worst because especially as a comic, you want to connect with the audience, to get going and to make them laugh instead of seeing a sea of phones. Come on.
Yeah, it's nice to be in the moment sometimes, and it's really funny how quickly you forget that a cell phone exists when you just don't use it.
Exactly right.
It is amazing. It's like a fog is lifted, and you're just in the moment. You don't need to take a picture. You don't need to take a video. You don't need to post or stream. You can just exist, and it is beautiful. Especially if you do a job like what I do, where you have to post all the time.
Is it something regarding posting? Because my kids, are very patient with me because I'm always doing stuff. I try to dial it down to be in the moment with them, but they get on me about it, and they're here. They get on me about it. Say, Dad, IRL. Like, I'm okay. Which I didn't know what that meant. I'm Gen X. I'm thinking about the last live Metallica album that I love. And so, is it something for you? Is it muscle memory that you're just like content all the time? Do you have to tell yourself to dial it down sometimes for balance?
Hi, I'm Brittany Diamond, and before I began my fitness journey with Young for Life Wellness, I looked like this.
Well, I think it depends. So for me, I think I am definitely addicted to work. That is 100% me. I know that that's me. It's something I have to work on, but I think my reasoning, maybe it's justified, maybe it's not, but like I probably do at least 5 to 6 stories a week on martial arts instructors that rape kids. And I do probably once a week a martial arts fraud, like that is scamming or conning people. And when I first started doing the job that I have, I was the only person who was doing this job. And still kind of the only person who really does it to the extent that I do. There are others who do it now, which is great. I love to see people who do it. More people who can call out these people, the better. Exactly. But there's a lot of them and one of me. So I feel like every time I get a message and I didn't do something about it, that's on me.
Oh, that's heavy.
And so sometimes even if you do the story and even if you do go after them, I don't win every time. Like sometimes they just get away with it and they just continue to thrive and continue. Like there's a guy right now, he runs a thing called Endo Athletics, and he's been ripping people off for years. I did a full expose piece about him, showed receipts of him just scamming people, ripping people off, taking their money, not providing services or products. And people know this, but every time he gets caught like this, he just changes the name to a different business. So he just keeps doing it. And I'm still fighting that guy. I'm still trying to get that guy shut down.
Where's he located?
I don't remember off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
Okay. No, we'll find. No, we'll clip this.
Yeah.
And we'll tag him.
Yeah, please do. Feel free to suck my nuts. Like that dude's a terrible person, but like you don't win every time. And so imagine doing a story about somebody, and then you look, and then next week after that, you're like, okay, this is a story I'm going to get to next week. And then you finally get to that story, but by the time you got to that story, they did it again. And they got caught, and you could have done something about it, but you didn't. And so that weighs very heavy.
Who else is out there that people need to be made aware of to stay away from that you know of?
I mean, I have to look at my list. I mean, you're talking about hundreds and hundreds of names. Like, if you really want to break it down, it's just as simple as asking better questions. So if you go into a martial arts studio, the standard for martial arts students, what we call leads, which is people who are just coming off the street to try for their first time. The standard for a lead to ask a question is, how much does it cost? That's it. They don't ask, do you guys do background checks here? Which you would imagine is probably a much more important thing. Like I did a story 2 days ago about a guy who was caught in 2004. Now we're in 2025. He was caught in 2004. He's on a sex offender registry, and he was still teaching all the way up till now.
What? As someone who's in a similar enough business, I'm shocked that insurance companies don't make them run background checks.
If they even have insurance.
Oh.
What? I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. Like sometimes what'll happen is
it
depends on the situation. It also depends on the state. Because like Megan's Law, if you look up Megan's Law, with Megan's Law, if someone is on our sex offender registry, they are supposed to give that information to their boss or place of employ. But that boss has no that boss does not have to tell you that they hired that person.
What?
So if they, like, let's say hypothetically, I'm the boss, right? And you come in, obviously this is hypothetical, but you came in and you were on a sex offender registry. Under Megan's law, you have to tell me. I don't have to tell my clients. You just have to tell me.
Absolutely insane.
So let's just do a list of what states are the most restrictive and what states are the ones you really got to start asking questions.
Do I really have to say the state? I'm pretty sure we know the state that's the most lenient.
Can I guess?
Yeah.
California.
Bam!
I was going to say, does it rhyme with California?
How did I know?
Schmalashmornia.
That's so sad.
With the Bakersfield thing, the lawsuit that I had to go through, right? That was the case. Was that guy was on a sex offender registry. Technically, he legally had to tell his boss, but his boss had to tell no one. And so people were finding out about it and confronting him about it, and he just kept kind of sweeping it under the rug. And so, like, what people don't realize is that you assume a lot of things about laws, but really we are our first line of self-defense. Yeah. Always, period. And situation dictates technique. So if, like, I need to defend myself in my home and I don't have a gun, that's on me. I should have. And you could do the old school, and if I offend anybody, I don't care. You could do the hypothetical of, oh, well, I wish the other guy didn't have a gun. That'd be great, but that's not reality. Reality is when something is invented, you cannot uninvent it.
Exactly.
And as me personally, I do truly in my heart wish firearms never did exist, but they do. And since they do, why would we pretend they don't? Why would we pretend that we can't just go down to Ace Hardware and make one? Because you can. It's not difficult.
It's like saying there just shouldn't be any sex offenders. Like, no shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so what we can know is that since we can't stop them from having one, and even if you do change the laws, we know very specifically that it
doesn't work.
It does not work, especially if you look at Chicago. And if anybody really needs to know, look up how strict gun laws are in Chicago, and then look up a website called heyjackass.com. Have you ever heard of this?
No.
So this website is amazing. Well, it's not amazing, but it's eye-opening to say the least.
Yeah.
So it's called heyjackass.com.
Okay.
And it's just a website that keeps criminal statistics for all of Chicago up to the minute.
Oh.
So you can see all the shootings, not only what shootings happened, but what area of town. You could see where someone got shot, how many people got shot, how many murders, stabbings, like the whole nine is all listed, very much like video game statistics right there on the website. So you have proof in the pudding that when you tell people you can't do that, they still might do it. I can't dictate what someone else is going to do. I can dictate what I can do. And what I can do is try to be a little more prepared for the what ifs. And sometimes the what ifs are just as simple as get your own firearm legally or ask the right questions in these situations, which is, do you guys do background checks at your martial arts facility? And if I don't ask that question, am I really doing my due diligence to protect myself and my loved ones?
What are the top 3 questions I should be asking a martial arts school if I'm going in there for myself and or my kids?
First one is gotta be, do you guys have local federal background checks? Has to be the most important question, because if you do not ask that question, the chances are good that they're not going to give you an answer, because they legally do not have to provide background checks. Legally, they don't have to run background checks at all. So they're not going to talk to you about it most of the time. I think the next thing would be probably credentials. Like, what have you done? And now, obviously, you might not know if you've never done martial arts what those credentials mean, but you can take those credentials and then you can go background check them yourself on Google. Like if somebody says, I did Steve Show-Roo, right? And you look that up and you find out that this guy invented that, that's probably a problem, right? Or like usually with that kind of stuff, you find what's called lineage. So like a good lineage is traceable. So you can go, okay, this person learned from this person, learned from this person. Okay, so this is viable because it's been around for X amount of time. If you're looking for self-defense, usually you want to ask the person if they themselves have fights or if they themselves have pressure tested what they're saying. For instance, if I go and learn firearms, like a tactical self-defense class, right? Or a tactical shooting course. It'd be nice if that person was ever in a tactical situation. They would have a much better understanding of the reality of that situation.
Right.
So it's very important to know that person has at least a history of understanding, does this work under pressure? Or a track record of that. For instance, for jiu-jitsu, there's a guy named John Donna here. And John Donahue is like a genius when it comes to teaching jiu-jitsu. He's made multiple world champions. And one of the greatest jiu-jitsu practitioners ever, Gordon Ryan, trains directly under John Donahue. Does Donahue have any fights? No. But is the proof in the pudding? Oh, yeah, absolutely, because he creates world champion after world champion. But then again, I could look that up, and that helps. And then I think the final one is just seeing if they have insurance at their facility. Because if you get hurt there, what happens to you?
As soon as you said if they have insurance earlier, my mind was blown.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous amount of people just don't have it. And then like obviously sometimes like when you're dealing with landlords, right? Landlord will be like, you have to do this. And so what a lot of these guys will do is they'll get it just so that way they can get into the building. And then after that, they'll just let it lapse.
That's crazy.
Yeah, because then what happens? Like the landlord's going to come back? Usually not.
Right. No, why would you? Yeah.
Landlord checked it out. You're good.
Right.
When you said that about martial arts schools not even having insurance.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what?
I think that would be my first question now, learning what I've just learned in the last few minutes. I think I would ask for a copy of it.
It's not hard.
And like call and make sure it's valid because it kind of fixes all of your problems too. They're not going to even let, somebody like that work there.
Yeah. What I realized doing McDojoLife is that it's one of those problems that's right on the surface and no one talks about because no one knows. We make so many assumptions that these people are doing what they're supposed to be doing.
I would have never thought about it if you didn't say it. Yeah.
It's sad because there's so much of this.
Yeah.
And I do it story after story after story. So after a while there, I was like, I just don't like martial arts. I just hate it. And so that sucks for something that I love so much. And so I took like 2 years and I had to deal with like figuring out what I was going to do in the industry. And then I realized what I'm doing with McDojoLife is reactionary. It happens, I do a story about it, and then am I really helping? Well, I'm stopping those people from continuing, but am I stopping the issue? And so I was racking my brain, and then I get a phone call from a buddy. His name is Milton. He runs a thing called Jiu-Jitsu Dummies Podcast. And out of nowhere, he goes, hey, what do you think about doing like a registry? And I go, what do you mean? He's like, what about like standards and practices in the industry? And I was like, okay, what do you have in mind? And he read off some things and I was like, that's actually not a bad idea. So we started something called Academy Safe. And Academy Safe is trying to get martial arts schools to present to the public better information about what the schools are doing. So for instance, since there are no regulatory bodies and no one really has to do any of the things we just talked about, why don't we put the ones who do those things on a pedestal and show the public? And so we can change the industry a different way by instead of saying, hey, you guys should do this thing that's going to cost you a little extra money that you don't want to necessarily do. Why don't we just tell the public that no one else is doing this except for these people? And so now we can get the consumer to walk in and ask better, more informed decisions. And then what will happen is we'll fix it at the baseline because now the consumer walks into the facility. The consumer goes, do you guys do background checks? And as soon as they say no, they walk right out and they go to somebody who did. And if they have that Academy Safe sticker, they damn sure did it because we vet the hell out of them. And we ask for so much. We want cameras inside your facility because of how many times people are accused of sexual abuse inside the facility. Yay, there's proof. You either did or you didn't. And if you have cameras, hey, there's proof you didn't. So it saves, saves you.
Brilliant.
That's
brilliant.
Concussion training. Like we're in a sport where we're hitting each other in the head. Like a basic 15-minute class about concussions will save a lot of people.
Yeah.
CPR first aid certification, which again, you would think is a no-brainer, but most people don't do that. Federal local background checks, safe sports certification, which is about what is and what is not appropriate and how to handle kids, how to make sure you're handling things in a respectful manner. And then we put them on this registry and we show the world all these coaches did all of these things. Their backgrounds are clean and we can't predict future behavior, right? So eventually we do know that somebody will go through the course and then offend. We do know that that will eventually happen.
Right.
There's nothing we can do. But we also know that future behavior is easily predicted by previous behavior. That's the best way to tell what's going to happen. So if we start saying background checks, then all of a sudden somebody goes, well, I'm not going to pass. Then you shouldn't be in this fucking industry. Sorry, it's that easy.
Yes.
I'm sorry you fucked up and you made the mistakes you made, but should we guess that you aren't going to do it again? No. That's not up to us. And we don't even tell people not to hire them, by the way. We just tell the public that these people did these things. And then when it comes to the sex offender thing, we just don't approve them. So if somebody has they robbed a bank when they were 18, made a mistake. They're 50 years old. They never offended. They did their time. That's up to the consumer to make their decisions. If you want to forgive that
makes
on
sense.
you.
That makes sense.
That's not on us to tell you where to train.
That makes sense.
Right.
But if you're a sex offender, should you be in a position of power over people?
Right. Absolutely.
Probably not.
No.
Yeah.
So
No.
we're trying. So we think that we can do something. It's been around for about a year now. We've really made headway. We've really made change. We've really gotten people talking about it at least. And again, every time I do a story on McDojoLife, we get more people signed up for Academy Safe. And they're working so well together in tandem that I hope that Academy Safe puts me out of business. I would love to just do the fun stuff. I'd love to do the podcast, hang out, not have to deal with like somebody who just raped somebody.
That would be the goal, right?
Yeah.
That you have no
That's
story.
the dream.
Like there is no stories out there for me.
I would love that. That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Rob, given the meteoric rise of first like UFC and then jiu-jitsu, you would think there'd be more regulatory actions already in place. Like the stuff you're saying, I'm knocking me over with a feather, man. I'm like, what? Like background checks, insurance, concussion prevention, like things like that. I'm like,
Seems so simple. Yeah.
It's you would think that's like basic if you're going to start a business up. But the first thing he said when we started this thing, Kris, is there's no regulatory commission overseeing like all the jiu-jitsu academies across the country.
Jiu-jitsu, martial arts, period.
Martial arts in general.
Everything.
There's nothing.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's terrifying.
And like what's crazy is the sport, like different sports in the industry, right? Boxing, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, MMA, those individual things, they usually do have some type of an entity, right? But to just run a studio, you need nothing. Like you don't even need a business license. You could run as a sole proprietor. You could just do it. And even crazier is it's so overlooked that when you do file, at least when I filed for mine, because I'm not dumb, I got my business license. But when you do file, like it doesn't even have a category. So like when I filed for like my business license to be like when I was working on my studio and owning my school, like it's like under dance instructor. It doesn't even have its own thing, which maybe I'm wrong here, but it seems like dance instructor is night and day different than martial arts instructor. There's a whole different dynamic here, especially since you're basically paying me. I get to punch you in the face and or choke you and or put you in harm's way. And I have no regulatory body, but like imagine this.
That's wild.
That responsibility of saying, hey, I can physically do you harm. You signed a waiver, you're here, and there's going to be probably an injury, right? Requires nothing. For me to give you information to save your life in a situation in which you might need to defend yourself. But you need a license to cut hair.
Yeah, I was literally just sitting here thinking about all the things you need licenses for, but apparently choking out someone is not one of them.
And it's so funny. It's so strange to me. Like my view of the martial arts industry has changed drastically over the years because of the job.
Right.
And really, we kind of are LARPing. And I'm not meaning that in a way that's negative. Like we all kind of are role playing in a way when we do our jobs or teach someone else how to do something, right? Like, again, when you're in here, this is role playing a scenario where you're shooting a person. This isn't a real thing. This is you live action role playing a scenario in a way to train you to get better at a specific action, right? But in martial arts, we do that. And then we provide like all of these odd culty like things. Like, have you ever heard of something called the gauntlet?
Yeah.
Yeah? Have you heard of the gauntlet? So the gauntlet is when someone gets promoted in jiu-jitsu. Now, granted, not all of jiu-jitsu does this, but some studios...
Like fight everybody or something
like
that?
No, you do not. All the students will take off their belts, and then you have to walk through a hallway of students, and they whip you, and then you have to turn around and walk back.
Sounds kind of hot to me.
That's called date night for Kris.
Yeah. Where do I do that?
That's a third Bumble date for Kris.
That's third one?
Yeah. Well, she's a prude.
Oh, okay. I got you. Yeah,
it's fine. That's
you got to warm up.
When you come back for part 2, we'll go down that road.
I got you. Okay.
That's
That's
fine.
cool. But yeah, it's a strange thing, right? Now imagine if you did that. Like when I tell people that that's just a crazy thing to do, right? Because that's just hazing. I asked them a very specific question. Does this make you better at jiu-jitsu? No. Does it make you worse at jiu-jitsu if you don't do it? No. So why do you do it? And they're like, well, it's a rite of passage. I'm like, you doing jiu-jitsu was the rite of passage. You were just choking and throwing and arm locking each other. And that didn't count as a rite of passage.
Right,
How
you
about a
already did the
handshake?
things,
How about a
yeah.
high five? Like, that's your rite of passage.
How
But
about a
like,
high five?
it's
That
just
is
insane.
super culty. I guess that never like
It's so
until you said
culty,
it that way,
right?
it never clicked
It's
for
so
me.
freaking
Yeah.
culty. What I want to, as we get towards the end of our conversation, I want to start at the beginning with you. What got you into martial arts? How old were you? What was it that had you walk into whatever the dojo, whatever it was?
I was getting the shit beat out of me in school. So I was born with a cleft lip and palate, and because of that, I had to go through a ton of surgeries. And so when you're going through elementary school, it's not really that bad. Like, elementary school is pretty easy. You have kids ask questions because they're curious, but I think as a kid, you don't realize that their curiosity might be negative. Because you're just existing. You're like, oh, I can answer that. That's not a problem. But by the time you get to middle school, there are like established cliques and hierarchies. So like you get there and there's already like teams of like basketball players and football players. So there's already like established hierarchies. You start getting like, oh, those are the gothic kids. Like, you don't really get that as much in elementary school. Like, everybody's just kind of existing. So by the time I got to middle school, it was like a shell shock. And so I was getting berated. I was getting beat up like every day. And like, I never was one to shy away from a fight, which probably is also another reason I was getting my ass whooped. And I wasn't very good at it. So I'm like, yeah, we can fight. Ow, stop punching my face. I'm losing. Why do I do this? So like,
It wasn't very good at it.
Why are you punching me? You told me to. I did.
Okay.
I was wrong.
Okay.
But like,
And then you did not learn the next day, and you did the same thing.
yeah, and
Right.
then I was like,
Right.
I get that. Yeah.
I get picked on. I'm like, you want to fight? They're
So
like,
what-
yes, because you suck at this.
What grade were you in? And what was there a certain moment you can look back on to go, it was Fern Finkelstein. She hit me with a flying sidekick during
I feel like you're
lunch.
projecting right now.
I had 3 tots in my mouth in cafeteria. One
have
tot
a-
went flying out.
I know the exact moment. It was 8th grade. I was 11 years old. And I was in the locker changing, like we were changing out to leave gym class.
Okay.
So we were in the locker room and we were sitting down and I felt like a sting in my back. Like, it hurt real bad. And the kids back then did what was called a bee stinger. So they would take pieces of paper, fold it up into a V, put it in a rubber band and snap each other with it. And so it would leave like a little welt. So I got hit in the back with that. And I'm like, hey, stop. And it was just a knee-jerk reaction. Well, when I did that, it was a group of kids. And so they all got up. And they sat all around me. And they're like, what are you going to do if we don't? And I was like, well, I guess we have to fight. Like, I just said stop. Like, don't do that. And of course, that was me still being bad at fighting. And they were like, all right, well, when we get out, when the class is over, like, we can fight outside. And I was like, oh, this is going to suck. I was like, this is how Tuesdays go around here. So the bell rang. I walk outside and they jump me. At first it was like one kid, because like we were all in a circle and they were just kind of doing the shove thing, and out of nowhere I get hit in the back of the jaw and I go to turn to address him and he starts messing me up, and then like they all jump in and I'm getting stomped out. And I just remember laying there, and like I had glasses in too, and they had broken, they were cutting my face, and I got stabbed with a pencil. Like, you could still see the mark from where a kid tried to stab me in the face. So a kid like had a pencil and went to go stab me, and I went to go defend myself, and it stabbed me in the finger, and I still have like a little piece of like tattoo from the lead. And I just remember laying there bleeding, and I watched 2 teachers just watch the entire thing and did nothing.
What?
And they beat me from the time the bell rang to the time the bell rang, which is 5 minutes. And if you've ever been into a fight, 5 minutes, is a
long really
whooping.
long
It's
time.
an eternity.
It was
Yeah.
a long time. So I'm just laying there, and I was pretty numb. Like, I'm just getting hit and moving, and I'm like trying to defend myself. The bell rang, and then they all scattered. And I'm assuming that's because there were so many of them, they thought maybe if they just got to class, they wouldn't get caught or whatever. I don't know. But 2 teachers watched the entire thing. So I'm laying there bleeding, and no one was coming to help me. Teachers didn't come to help me, nothing. And I just remember seeing a shadow, like, because I can't see shit without my glasses. So I remember seeing something like waddling towards me. And it was like the only friend I had in school. And he's always fucking late. Joey's always late to goddamn everything. Still to this day, he's late to everything. So he was late to that class, and he was getting there late. And he walked over and he picked me up. And he walks me to the nurse's office, and we don't really say anything the whole time. And as we're walking, he hands me a card, and it was a free trial martial arts card. And he was already in martial arts for a very long time up to that point. So he handed it to me, and he goes, you need this. His words. And I go, thank you. Put it in my pocket. We never said another word. So I went home, told my mom, like, obviously I had to do the whole, like, got into a fight at school crap. And they had this, like, everyone's in trouble policy. So I was like, I got in trouble for just catching an ass whooping. I was like, yeah, that's fair. But not. I was like, all right, I guess I'll take the suspension. So I get suspended for getting the shit beat out of me. And then I told my mom about what happened, and I handed her the card, and I was like, I really want to do this. And she goes, maybe. And she was very worried that I would get hurt in any sport because I had done so many surgeries. She was like, well, if you get hit in the face with a baseball, you're going to have to go through your surgeries again. If you get hurt in football. So she wouldn't let me do sports. And so when I told her I wanted to do that, she said, maybe. And my mom's a yes or no woman. So when she said maybe, I was like, huh. So the next month was my birthday, 12th birthday. I come home from school and there's a cake and a box and a card. I open up the card. It's got some cash in it. Couldn't tell you what it said. Probably I love you, blah, blah, blah. But I open up the box and there's just a piece of paper in there. And I'm like a 12-year-old boy. I'm like, this is
You're
a video
looking
game.
for
I'm like,
something.
What the
Yeah.
fuck is this? So I look and she goes, read it. And it was a contract. She had paid in full. And she was like, your first class is tonight. Your uniform's waiting at the school. And so my very first class was on my birthday. And every year on my birthday, I celebrate another year. And I've been in martial arts since I was 12 years old. So now I am 40. So 28 years in the industry.
That's great.
Because of that ass
Wow.
whooping. And then now because of that, I have a career that allows me to call out people who were huge pieces of garbage in the industry. 2 black belts, a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I've been able to travel the world with this job. And it's all because of one ass whooping.
I want to, at some time, I hope that you get to thank those kids that gave you the ass whooping because of the man that you are now. Like, this is one of the, this is going to be episode 104, 105 of Fargo Talks. This is one of the best episodes I've ever had. It's just, thank you for being honest. Thank you for the work you're putting in on a daily basis to bring out the absolute worst of what is everyone looks at as an amazing thing. Everyone looks at like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and goes, oh my gosh, this is so good. And my kids can do it and I can do it. And we're doing all, it's good. It's good. I'm playing chess, basically. It's like martial arts chess. It's all I hear about. Wonderful. I've never heard the underside of it and the questions people should be asking.
Why those people all show up to that space is because they can be a hero instantly without having to become accredited at all.
So it's just,
When you said, I hope you get to like, well, how did you put it? I hope
you get to thank those kids.
I get to thank them every day by being successful in what I do. So like every day they can watch me and they can see that I don't know what they're doing. And I really do hope that they turned another leaf. I really do hope that they're not a burden on someone else. I really do hope that they're not assholes. I really hope they're living a good life. But I'm thankful for the ass whooping. And if it didn't happen, probably would have had a cool life too. I would have just done something else. Right. But ultimately, because of what they did, they can now watch me succeed. And if they have to watch me succeed while they're not succeeding, I'm not going to say that doesn't hurt my feelings a little bit, but I would rather us all succeed because I don't have that same vitriol or hate for them. They were living their life. They made their mistake. And I don't think that anybody's perfect. And I think that people misunderstand sometimes what I do as some type of like virtue signaling crap. Trust me, I drink, I smoke weed, I fuck up, I make mistakes. I am nobody's hero. Do not look up to me. But at the end of the day, this is my job. This is what I do. And I try to make sure that at least the public is made aware so they can make their own informed decisions. If you want to go out there and you want to give your money to some piece of garbage rapist, that is on you and your conscience. That has nothing to do with me because I gave you the information and you can make your decision based off of your ethics. I'm not here to teach people ethics. I'm just here to give people information.
Rob, I don't practice martial arts and I look up to you. I do.
Don't look up to me when we're smoking.
You need to give yourself grace, my friend. You need to give yourself grace because what you do is fantastic.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you for just what you're doing. And you have an open seat to come downrange with Kris and I whenever you're in town, because your stories are fantastic. Like we could go for 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
We'll have to do updates.
We definitely need to, like, as you come to town, let us know, or Kris will just call you 800 times like she did before, and
I'll give another PowerPoint.
There you go.
She'll do a whole Google slide presentation about why you should come on.
I might actually be out here more often. I'm usually in Vegas 5-6 times a year, but we've been working on a documentary about martial arts cults.
Yeah, that's great.
For 5 years, and the only reason it's taken this long was because it took, I think. It was 3 months of us trying to figure out how we were going to do our Indiegogo campaign. So like setting it up, how we were going to do the tiers. Then it was another 3 months before we even announced it. Then we announced it. Then it was another 3 months of crowdfunding. So that was like 9 months right there. And then we were about to start filming, and then COVID hit. And then that shut us down for 2 years.
Ugh.
And then after that, we got in with a production company who was going to pay for the entire thing, but they were trying to fire my team. They wanted to take creative control, business control. And so we were negotiating for like a year. That was a year of it. We got a new director, blah, blah, blah. So now we finally, I think we're finding a good fit. I can't talk about it yet, but we are coming to the end of that road.
That's great.
And so we're probably about to finish filming soon. And then I'll probably be in LA for a while we're filming, editing, all that good stuff. And then I'll probably be popping in because y'all are like 4 hours away.
Yeah, it's so easy.
Get your ass back here.
Yeah.
Because this was great. Thank you.
Appreciate you, man. I appreciate the invite. I love this stuff. Love talking shop.
It's good times. Kris, closing thoughts?
Closing thoughts.
Yeah, anything else?
I think I knew, I guess I love having people on here because I knew, but I didn't know. Like I didn't know. So it's just good to hear all of that stuff. And I mean, what Jeff said, like, thank you. I've had personally only bad experiences in martial arts and completely just gave up. So to know that there is some sort of like directory or place that I could go to be like, oh, these people are not pieces of fucking shit, you know? That's like comforting. So,
and it did get to me. Like I said before, like 2 years, like, and I love martial. I absolutely love this. I love it to death. So much I've dedicated my life to it. I love it. And there was 2 years of where I was like, this sucks ass. Like I can't walk into any studio without thinking, did you do your due diligence? Are you raping? You a raper? You raping? Because like, that's where my mind kept going. And then now it's like, all right, well, clearly not everything. Like this provides so much good. So I'm not crapping on martial arts. I'm just crapping on the individuals in the industry who give it a bad name for the rest of us who are trying to do good.
Thank you very much. Good stuff.
Yes, sir.